everybody, and welcome to our webinar in collaboration with BARBRI. We're delighted to be running this session on the SQE for you, the Solicitors Qualifying Exam. It's definitely been a popular topic, so we hope that you'll enjoy this webinar and find it useful. So I'm going to hand over to Sandip from BARBRI in a moment, but first I'm just going to quickly run through some of our house rules as we usually do at the beginning of our webinars. So first and foremost, this is your opportunity to ask your questions about the SQE. So please use the online question tool to post any questions that you have. Sandip will be taking some breaks throughout his presentation to answer questions on particular themes, and we'll definitely save some time for a Q&A at the end. So please make use of that tool. If you do experience any audio or visual problems, please also use this tool to report them to us, and we'll do our best to resolve them for you. Please note this webinar is being recorded. We get this question a million times every webinar. The recording of this session will be posted online, and you'll receive a link within the next 24 hours, automatically giving you the link to rewatch this if you would like. Also, please feel free to post about the webinar on social media using hashtag #LCNWebinar. And finally, don't forget that on Law Careers.net, we have a whole SQE hub, which has everything you need to know about the SQE. And we're very regularly updating the content on there and answering all the specific questions that you have. So please use it as your first port of call in your research on the SQE. So I'm just going to start by just running a couple of polls so we can understand who you are and kind of what knowledge you have at the moment. So we're just going to ask you first of all to answer what stage you're at. So if you could please answer the question that's popped up on your screen, then we'll be able to have a better understanding of our audience today. Great, okay. Just sharing that so Sandip can see. So actually, a high proportion of you are postgraduate or you're in work. Lots of second and third year students, a few first year, a few non-law, and a few other as well. So that's good to know. And I've got one more poll just to ask you, which is, how much do you already know about the SQE? Nothing, a little, some, a lot. I presume not many of you are going to know a lot, which is why you are here. This would be good for us to understand just kind of the level that you are at the moment. So please take a moment to select an answer, and I'll share that in a minute as well. Great. So as I expected, nobody managed to select a lot, but some people know a little, some know some, and a few know nothing. So that's a great place to start. So hopefully by the end of this session, a lot of you will be able to boost up one and be on the next level of your SQE knowledge. Great, so thank you very much, and that gives us a really good idea of who's here today. I'm going to pass over now to Sandip Sahmbi, who is Careers and Employability Manager at BARBRI, and he's going to run you through the basics of the SQE and answer your questions too. So Sandip, over to you, and I'm just going to let you be able to share your screen, which you'll be able to do.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandip. I'm the Careers and Employability Manager at BARBRI. So BARBRI is a legal education provider which specializes in innovative technologies to help law students and lawyers succeed in achieving their legal qualifications, and most recently within completing the SQE, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So the first question, what is SQE? Well, from 2021, the pathway to becoming a solicitor in England and Wales has changed, as the SQE examination was introduced. So this is a new pathway and a new examination that every graduate will need to pass if they want to become a lawyer, whether you study law at university or something else. So fundamentally, the purpose of the SQE is to make qualifying as a solicitor more flexible and accessible. Now, it's broken down into two parts. You have SQE1 and SQE2. And you need to pass both of these to get an overall SQE, Solicitor Qualifying Examination. You no longer need to complete the GDO anymore, which is a conversion course which you had to do before if you were a non-law student. You can now go straight into doing an SQE prep course and undertaking an SQE 1 and 2 examination. Now, the plan is for SQE to completely replace the LPC over the next few years and become the only route to qualifying as a lawyer in England and Wales. So the SQE has come about to offer a lot of flexibility, a lot of accessibility, and it's the new means of becoming a qualified solicitor in England and Wales. So this illustrates really how the SQE route is broken down. It's broken down into four key components. So you have SQE Stage 1, SQE Stage 2, And then you have two other parts. So you've got the character suitability requirement. Now, the SRA has a set of requirements that you need to satisfy to become a lawyer. And the purpose of these requirements is to really assess whether you can be trusted in a position of importance to protect the public and public interest. And then you've got that fourth part, which is a biggie. So that's the qualifying work experience. And you'll need to complete 2 years full-time qualifying work experience. Now, this can also include any work that you've done before you sat the exam, and it could be either paid or unpaid legal work, but the work that you've previously done has to, again, satisfy the criteria that the SRA has established. And all these criteria can be found directly on the SRA website. So if you secure a training contract, for example, at a law firm, this can also qualify you and satisfy you for the 2 years training period for the QWE as well. But as we mentioned before, the whole purpose of the SQE and the QWE is to make everything more flexible. So you're not limited in terms of the experience that can be included to qualify you for the qualifying work experience. You can also use working as a paralegal, placements during your law degree, working at a law clinic, working at a volunteer or charitable organization or center, working in-house, or even working abroad. All these qualify you for the qualifying work experience, the QWE. So we're just going to move on to talking a little bit about the structure of the SQE1, SQE2 examination. Now, it's broken down into two parts, SQE1, SQE2. SQE1 is really there to test your legal knowledge. It includes topics that you would see in a law degree, such as tort law, contract, and criminal law. But it also has some of the topics that aren't typically taught in a law degree, like dispute resolution, business law, and practice law. So the overall exam format is made up of 2 multiple choice tests. The first one is called Functional Legal Knowledge 1, and then you have Functional Legal Knowledge 2, also known as FLK1 and FLK2. Now, this part is all multiple choice, which is completely different to conventional ways of qualifying. It's all multiple choice. Now, that could sound a little bit easy, but 180 questions across different topic areas, which last 5 hours and is spread in 2 separate days, is definitely a little bit challenging, which is why it's so important that preparation courses are ideal for preparing you to take these examinations. Now, the cost of an SQ1 exam is at £1,622. This is set by the SRA directly. So this is a fixed price. Here's a bit more of a breakdown in terms of what the subjects are tested. So you've got, as I mentioned, business law and practice, dispute resolution, tort law. You've also got contract law and so forth. Okay, so we'll move on to SQE2 exam. And once you pass the SQE1, you'll be eligible to take the second part. Now, this test is a bit more practical one. It's also divided into 2 halves, which assess you across a bunch of different exercises. Now, the first part of SQ2 exam is made up of 4 oral assessments, which take place over 2 half-day sessions, which cover client interviewing, attendance, advocacy, and analysis. Now, in the interview session, you'll be doing a bit more of kind of role-playing exercise and situations where the assessor will play the part of the client and you'll play the part of the lawyer who's advising them. The second part of the SQ2 assessment is a bit more written and a practical section, taking place 3 half-day sessions. And in that assessment, you'll be examined upon case and matter analysis, legal research, legal writing, and legal drafting. Now, across the exams, you'll be assessed to see if you can demonstrate the standards of a day 1 solicitor. And that is the term which the SRA uses to describe the standards that a solicitor needs to show on day 1 of qualifications. I'm just going to pause it here to see if there's any questions on what we've covered right now before I move on to, is the SQE right for you? Do we have any questions at the moment, or are we okay to carry on?
Not yet. early days, so keep going, and yeah, please do ask your questions using the question tool. I can see some people put their hands up, but we can't answer your, we can't do that with your hands up, so just put your questions in the question box and we'll be able to answer those.
Brill, perfect. So is SQE right for you? Well, as I mentioned, the SQE was only introduced in 2021. Its predecessor, which is the Legal Practice Course, LPC, has been around for years and years and years. The plan is for SQE to completely replace the LPC, so it's inevitable. The LPC will be replaced and it will be the SQE moving forward, the only route to qualifying as a solicitor in England and Wales. But we are still on that sort of transitional period. So aspiring solicitors like yourselves, some of you will have the option to either do the LPC or SQE if you're still eligible. So you might be thinking about which one should you take here and what is the right decision. And it is a complex one because this is really case by case, understanding your situation, where you're currently at in terms of your career thinking, what area of law you want to focus on, what firms you want to apply to. So it does need a little bit of thought, and a good conversation will really be key to this. But just to give you some kind of pros and cons, the entry requirements for exams are particularly different for non-law graduates. So if you want to take the LPC as a non-law graduate, you'll have to complete the graduate diploma in law or the postgraduate diploma in law, a conversion course. So this could mean an extra year of study. And with the extra year of study, there's also extra cost of study as well. With the SQE, there is no such requirement. So if you didn't study law, you'll be able to start preparing for your exams as soon as possible. So the SQE is really open to law and non-law graduates. In terms of length of time, the LPC is typically lasts for 1 academic year when studying full, whereas there's a possibility for you to study the SQE in a much shorter time. And we'll go through that and I'll explain some of the different prep courses we do have, one of which is a 10-week prep course. So if you're thinking about undertaking SQE, BARBRI could be the provider of choice. And the question you want to possibly ask yourself is, well, why choose BARBRI? Why choose BARBRI preparation? What can they offer that other providers may or may not be able to offer? Well, I think stats speak for themselves, and this is a nice slide to kind of really illustrate why so far SQE, students doing SQE with BARBRI has been very much a popular choice. Now, as you can see, in terms of market share dominance on the left-hand side, you can see that we're early adopters of the SQE, and we've seen massive amounts of students undertaking their SQE preparation and examination through BARBRI. We also see our pass rates are looking very positive. So we're sitting on 77%, which is better than the average of 53% on SQE1. And of course, reviews on our innovative personal study plan, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the support we do have around preparing you. It's got excellent ratings, a very intuitive, easy to use, user-friendly sort of platform and system to support you through your study and journey. And here is some similar stats for the SQE2 preparation. Again, you can see passing rate is at 83% compared to the average 77%. So we're looking to pass students at a much higher rate, which is always positive. Now, in terms of BARBRI and the SQE prep course, there is a lot of support there available. Although we are very much an online provider, we do use a lot of intuitive and innovative systems such as Isaac, which is your intuitive study assistant coach. It personalizes the approach to study and really calculates using complex algorithms to basically get you from A to Z, to get you from starting point to passing. So you have access to learning coaches as well, which are non-practicing lawyers, and you could book a one-to-one meeting whenever you want with them. We also offer we also have a lot of expertise in multiple choice examinations. We've built these from years and years of passing students through the US bar in our US BARBRI or a company as well. So this is why there is so much success using the same platform and model that we use in the US, using it here and really tweaking and changing it for the UK market to really see that success. So in terms of the SQE prep courses, they're really designed for everyone or anyone who's aspiring to become a solicitor lawyer. So they're open for graduates and lawyers who have either qualified abroad or are non-graduates, law graduates as well, non-law graduates, and candidates with full-time and part-time commitments. So if you are working, we do adjust the prep courses we do have. And to really kind of give you, paint you a picture of our prep courses, this illustrates as well. So if you feel that you are if you're a non-law graduate, which some of you could be, or you're in full-time employment or foreign qualified lawyer, you might opt to doing the flexible 40-week course, which only requires a recommended time of 10 to 12 hours of study per week. But if you are somebody who's a current law graduate from a UK university or have graduated about 3+ years ago, then you might opt into the 20-week course, which is a little bit more intense. It requires you to have 20 hours of study a week, but gets you passed in half the time. Or we have the accelerated 10-week course, which requires 35 hours per week. And these are best for recent law graduates or graduates from UK universities that really want to just use that intensity and pass the SQE prep course as soon as possible, because everything is fresh on your minds. Now, these are not strict routes that you have to take. These are the recommended ones. If you feel that you're somebody who likes to learn at a more flexible and relaxed pace, then you might opt for the 40-week course as well. If you're somebody who's like a sponge and soaks in information and likes the intensity or has the time to really accelerate your learning and study, then you might opt for a 20-week or 10-week course. This is up to you. These are just recommended, but if you are not sure, we do have a very good sales team who are always on hand to have a conversation with you and find the best preparation course, which is really bespoke and tailored for yourselves. These are some nice comments and feedback from students. I'll just let you read them. One of them is from Rebecca. So really enjoyed working with BARBRI and I found the service very easy to use and helpful. We get number of different feedbacks from our students, and it's always nice to hear these sort of feedbacks, but it's always nice to share these as well, which just shows the support which is available and the intuitive of our sort of platforms that is available to our students and how much they enjoy it. So I'm going to move really on to the kind of last segment of this before I open it up to Q&As, and it's really my bread and butter, careers and employability, the added support, because a big chunk of you passing your SQE is finding that qualifying work experience, and we have a lot of support available to our students to gain that experience. So we break it down into 4 key areas of support. We've got our BARBRI Career Hub, which is our careers and employability intranet. So every student will have access to our careers and employability intranet, where you'll have access to legal industry focused articles and content, which is regularly updated. You'll be able to get your CV checked as well using our very innovative AI-based CV checker. You have interview preparation, which is tailored interview preparation for the legal sector. Lots of psychometric assessments, which are very common in the recruitment processes, such as situational judgment, critical thinking. You do also get access to our one-to-one support from a career guidance consultants. They both, Jane and Jackie, are fantastic. They have ample experience in the legal industry and can really navigate and support you in finding qualifying work experience and prepare you for those applications and interview support. we launched a series of industry insights, which is also open to prospective students. So anyone on this chat and call is welcome to sign up to our industry insight series. And this is where we bring industry leaders within the legal sector to give an insight into either the life of their area, or introduce you to new concepts around the legal industry as well. We recently had Dan Keynes, who spoke about O-shaped lawyer, Evoca as well, which spoke a bit more around their sort of platform that they have. So lots and lots of things, which really just kind of widens your knowledge of the legal industry and what's around there to support you. And like I mentioned, QWE is probably a very, very massive pain point for many of you who is looking to qualify as a solicitor, as is the requirement. We have partnered up with a organization which is going to be focusing their efforts on actually getting law, like qualifying work experience opportunities. We do have a webinar coming up end of the month, end of March. So you are all invited as prospective students, so you can have a look at what's on offer. You can sign up to a webinar, but we've got so much that's available to support our students to gaining qualifying work experience. So we reached the last bit before I open up for any questions, Q&As, which I'd imagine we'll get a few. The question is, are you ready to enroll? Are you thinking about enrolling to SQE prep? I know some of you are still at a very early stage of your journey as a first year, second year student, something which you don't need to enroll straight away. But as long as BARBRI is in your minds and you follow us and keep in track with us, and when it is the right moment, you do your research and figure out what the right thing is, then do obviously keep in touch. Anything around fees and enrollments, you can scan this QR, find a little bit more about scholarships which are available and the funding which is available as well through our BARBRI Bridges, which supports a diverse range of students. So I hope that's been useful. I hope that's a quick whistle-stop tour around SQE and qualifying as a solicitor in England and Wales. But I'm happy to open it up to any questions if we have any questions today.
Yeah, I think we've opened the floodgates. We've had loads coming through while you've been speaking there, Sandip. So what I'm going to do is try and categorize them into themes, because some people have asked similar questions. So I'm going to start with a couple of non-law students who have questions. So Sue has asked, if you're graduating from a non-law course this summer, can you go straight to study the SQE without doing the GDL or a conversion course?
In short, yes. And that is the greatest thing about the SQE. It offers so much flexibility. And Sue, you're right in thinking that the old route would have made you do a GDL or conversion course, but with the SQE, you no longer need to do a conversion course. You can straight away go and do a prep course.
Great, and that's just answered somebody else's question who has just said, as a non-law student, is the GDL still recommended? But I guess, as you said, you know, there's different courses out there, so you can just go and straight do an SQE prep course for non-law students if you would like to.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So the GDL, if you are following the route, the old route of going through the LPC, you would need to do a GDL, but the new route, the SQE route, the GDL is not required. So as a non-law graduate, you can, once you've graduated from your non-law degree, you can think about doing your SQE examinations 1 and 2. I always say do a prep course. You don't have to, but it is very unlikely at the moment from what we're seeing in terms of you passing. Prep courses are so important. It's just a very rigorous process. So it's highly recommended that you do opt into doing a prep course to really prepare you, especially for non-law graduate, just to grasp the understanding of the legal sector and industry. And there are a lot of providers out there. So do your research. I'm obviously going to be biased. I think BARBRI is one of the best providers at the moment out there. So do your due diligence and have a look what's out there. But as a non-law graduate, you can straight away consider doing a SQE.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, just to emphasize, we always say on law careers that like you can definitely theoretically rock up and take the SQE exam without having studied law, but it's definitely not a good idea. So
No.
really have a look at, because there's so many options out there. Whether that's doing yeah, an SQE course with prep in it, with conversion in it, or doing a separate conversion course is kind of what works best for you. What's this other person? So, oh yes, Anita has asked, can you apply for a training contract with a non-law degree and the law firm will sponsor your SQE? I assume this is hard to find, but I think that's a good point to make, isn't it, Sandeep? That
Yeah.
if you do get a training contract or you get signed up with a firm, they will likely have decided already how you're going to do your preparation courses.
Yeah, they might be affiliated with particular providers or have a particular route way that they want you to follow. So you would more than likely follow their pathway into qualifying as solicitor.
Perfect. Someone's just asked, I'm not sure if you'd have this off the top of your head, but if you have any information on the pass rate with BARBRI for non-law graduates, but that might be hard to remember off the top of your head.
Great question. I don't have the figures, but it's a great question. It's something which we try to be very data savvy. It's not a stat that I have on top of my head, but it's something which I can more than happy to kind of see if we could dig out, if our analysts can pull that data out, and I can provide that at a later stage. But we don't have that at the moment, unfortunately.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go over to some questions about LPC and kind of equivalent courses, because Marissa has asked, saying that passing the BPTC used to cover some aspects of the LPC, such as advocacy. Is this the same for the SQE?
Yeah, so the SQE will tackle a lot of the key areas there. It will do. In short, it will do. For more details on that, it would be probably useful to just have a look at the SRA site and see the different modules that are involved. In terms of preparation, we prepare you for the modules that you're going to be tested upon. But as I listed in the earlier slide, it does cover a wide range of areas of law modules.
Yeah, and Marissa, it's just worth saying that if you have already passed the BPTC, or if you're wanting to switch between the kind of barrister and solicitor route, it's just worth having a look and having a think about your particular circumstances, because yeah, that sounds like you might have already done that. So yeah, definitely do some research on that. Does the SQE route take into account the LPC qualification? So what are the implications or options for those who have already completed the LPC?
Great question. If you've done the LPC, it gets a little bit complicated depending on how much experience. Like I said, the SQE is formed by the SQ1 and SQ2 and the qualifying work experience and the competency framework. So if you've done the LPC, you would need to still do the SQ1 and SQ2, as far as I'm aware.
I think there's a transitional period until 2032. So if you have already taken the LPC, or you've started your law degree and you're going to go and do the LPC, you can still theoretically do it until 2032. But there's obviously going to
2036, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's so yeah. Sorry if I probably misheard the question. If you have done the LPC, then you've got quite a lengthy time before when it's still valid to go through the traditional route as a training contract. If you've done the LPC, I think it's 2036 or something like that. But it's worth noting that firms are probably going to start phasing out training contracts as they move and transition towards the SQE route. So although you'll still find training contracts in the next few years, because the SQE will be the new route, those training contracts will either be adapted to be a form of qualifying work experience, a 2 years qualifying work experience, or just be phased out. We just don't know at the moment. It's so new in the market. We just don't know what's going to be happening in the next few years. Unfortunately, we can only predict these things. But if you have done the LPC, I think you do have a good length of time still.
I'm pretty sure, unless I'm wrong, if you've done the LPC, you can maybe skip SQE1 prep and go straight into SQE2. There might be some kind of transitional arrangements. I think it's worth having a look at that and have a look at SQE Hub as well. I don't have the information off the top of my head, but yeah,
I
there's
think there might
definitely.
be some, yeah, you're right. There might be some exemptions, and it's always worthwhile just jumping on the SRA website, which lay down the different exemptions that you do have. They've got a very nice kind of toolbar which you could just pop in a question, and it gives you the recommended sort of answers. So I think, yeah, there might be some ways where you have exemptions there.
Great. See if there's any, I'm just trying to do my keeping it in the same theme. Okay, yeah, so continuing on the kind of postgrad theme, and actually this is a question I did a presentation yesterday, as I was telling you earlier, came up quite a lot. So what's the difference in studying a master's LLM and just doing SQE prep?
That's a very good question. So master's LLM, even if you do study SQ1, SQ2, you could still do you could still do an LLM, just because it teaches you a lot more theory-based work, whereas the SQE will support you in, like they say, to be a day one qualified solicitor in a sense. So the SQE is more of equivalent of you passing an examination for you to have the right competencies to work as a solicitor, where the LLM will teach you more theory-based to really specialize you in a particular area of field that you enjoy. So it's an element you can't write it off. You could still do that either before or at a later stage, depending on what you want to specialize in your area of field.
I think it's worth saying, as I was saying to a lot of students at my presentation yesterday about doing an LLM, if you are going to go and just do a straight LLM, I think as Sandip said, it doesn't lead you into SQE. It wouldn't really lead you into a career. It would just be something that you would do kind of as an extra qualification. But also there are SQE preparation courses out there which are combined with an LLM. So you could do that and then you'd be able to get the postgraduate funding. But I'd say it's pretty untypical for people to do just an LLM straight unless they wanted that extra knowledge, or maybe to go into like academia or something. But in terms of becoming a solicitor, you don't need an LLM in any form. You need to do SQE. But if that's combined with SQE, then yes.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, so many questions. I'm struggling to keep up and organize them. So I'm just going to go through them now. So I think we're going to have lots on QWE. So, this is a good question from Harleen, which I think it's just worth bearing, because they've asked, BARBRI only provides the prep courses. It does not teach the SQE. So maybe, Sandip, it's just worth emphasizing that the SQE is an exam run separately by a separate exam board.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. So to qualify, you have to do 2 examinations and gain the qualifying work experience. Now, the 2 examinations are SQ1 and SQ2 examinations, and theoretically they can be done without doing any preparation, but it's very unlikely that you'll be able to pass with any pre-preparation. So there are prep courses available from different providers to prepare you for these examinations. So BARBRI is a provider of preparation courses to pass the SQ1 and a provider of a preparation course to pass the SQ2.
Yeah, perfect. And just to emphasize as well, you would have to pay for the preparation course, and they'd also have to pay for the exam. So it's not like the LPC is a course you have to take. You just have to take the exams. How you get to do the exams, whether that's self-study or a prep course or whatever, is completely up to you. But it's a series of exams as opposed to a course, and BARBRI offer those courses. And I think that's led on nicely to Katie's question: do you have to do a prep course of both 1 and 2, and are they similar to the teaching at university?
You do have to do, well, it's very highly recommended. I always say I've got to be careful because you don't have to do it, but it's highly recommended that you do a preparation course to really give you that support and understanding and knowledge to pass the SQ1 examination, SQ2 examination. And you're right, you will have to do, we offer different prep courses. We offer a prep course for SQ1 and a prep course for SQ2. And if we break it down to SQ1 preparation course, we do 3 different preparation courses for SQ1: the accelerated 10-week, the 20-week, and the 40-week. For the SQE2 preparation, we do a 10-week, a 20-week, and a 40-week. So they are definitely a recommended route way to preparing you to undertake the examinations. Highly recommended that you do that.
Great. And just leading on from that is just the timings of things, which I think is made a bit more flexible, but also a bit more confusing now with the SQE. So I guess maybe a summary of when people could do the SQE prep courses, the exams, and the QWE, in what order would that typically happen?
So SRA has designated Kaplan to run the examinations. So you have to find a training center which you take the examinations from Kaplan. There are certain points, certain dates when you have to do the examinations. They are fixed dates. I think there are possibly maybe two dates of exams within a year. I need to double check on what the exact dates are, but you can find them on the SRA website. So there are 2 dates in a year where you could take the examinations. Now, we as a provider, we understand we work towards them examination dates. So our preparation prep courses are there to be able for you to study and prepare you to take the exam at a particular date, in line with the SRA's designated examination dates. So we do, bearing that in mind, so if you've got two exam dates, we try to fix different preparation courses. So we do, throughout the whole year, we do have quite flexibility in terms of our prep courses that we have. So we've got another cohort which will be open in April, and one at the end of the year as well, and then one at the beginning of next year. So you can sign up and enroll onto different prep courses to help you pass the different dates that the SRA have stated for the examinations.
And then in terms of QWE, this qualifying work experience, would you do that after the SQE exams, or could you do it, start collecting it during or before?
So with the qualifying work experience, yeah. So you can gain qualifying work experience before and during and even after your SQE. To fully qualify, you would have to have the QWE there, but you can gain the work experience, the qualifying work experience before. So if you've been, which is why so accessible and flexible. So if you've been paralegaling for many years, you now have the opportunity to use that paralegaling experience as a form of qualifying work experience. And the same way that if you've done 3, 4, up to 4 different work experiences, if they collectively add up to 2 years, that can also be formed as a qualifying work experience. You can use up to 4 different periods of experience. 4 different periods of experience with no strict limitation in the amount of months of each experience, but collectively it has to be 2 years, and that can be done before, after, and during your SQE prep and examinations.
And also just to say that if you end up signing up to do a kind of training contract at a law firm, which would be doing your 2 years just with that QWE, just with that law firm, it's likely they would ask you to do your prep course, your SQE prep course, to do your SQE, then you do your QWE. So which is kind of basically similar to the route it is now. So there's definitely flexibility, but some firms are still wanting to train people in-house. And then Mira has also asked about QWE, and actually I can also answer this, saying, are a lot of law firms, clinics aware of QWE because the SRA says it needs to be signed off and meet a certain criteria? And just to say, recording your QWE would be up to you. There is a template on the SRA website which you can download and use. You would need to get it signed off with someone at the organisation you're working with, and that can be a practicing solicitor, or I think it's a compliance officer, legal practitioner, or something. Yeah. But they would have to sign off to show that you've demonstrated the skills, the necessary skills and requirements. So theoretically, if you're working anywhere, whether it's a law firm, a clinic, pro bono place, you could get it signed off, but you would have to record it. It's up to you to record it, and I guess ask for it to be signed off if you're doing it the more flexible building up your own way. Sandeep, that all sounds correct, doesn't it?
That is correct. Yep, spot on.
We've got another one from Mira that says, any advice for mature students looking to embark on SQE prep? What would be your top tips?
Oh, okay. So I would say the qualifying work experience part is one of the most important parts, because it's really shaping you to understanding and gaining that professional experience. But don't just use any qualifying work experience as a form of work experience to complete your SQE. Think about what you want to do afterwards, what area of law you want to specialize in, whether you want to go into corporate law or in-house legal, and then try to gain the right experience that gives you the knowledge, competencies and skills within that area of field. Because what you might find is, if you've gained experience, for example, working in family law, for example, and you use that as 2 years worth of qualifying work experience, you will probably find it very challenging to move from family law experience to a much more of a kind of commercial corporate law. So think about what qualifying work experience you want to gain based upon what firm you want to go into. I'd say that's the biggest tip, and use the opportunities like these to network, to build that sort of commercial awareness, attend lots of different events from industry leaders, which will just broaden your understanding of the legal sector as a whole.
I think that's very good advice. We've also had someone say that this is from Kulsuma. Kulsuma asks, I've done some work experience. I'm not sure whether it counts towards qualifying a work experience. Where do I go to for confirmation of this?
It's a very good question. The first point I'll go is the SRA, because they have a strict guidance in terms of what will qualify you as qualifying work experience. To actually get it signed off is another thing now, which I think Beth was talking about. It would need to be signed off by what's called a COLP. It's a compliance officer in the for legal practice, and that'll be, so it's a qualified solicitor would need to sign off your qualifying work experience. That is the short answer. So you need to get a check by qualifying work experience. That will be done from the company that you gain the work experience from. Somebody will need to sign off there. So wherever you gain your work experience, go back to a qualified work experience and see if they can qualify a solicitor, and see if they can sign the qualifying work experience off by there.
Brilliant. And then Anita, I know that you asked a question saying, could this include placements during university? And I'm guessing that would just be the same advice. You'd need to go and see if whoever you did your placement for could officially sign off.
Exactly that, and that's the nice thing about the SQE route, is it opens up a lot of, it removes a lot of barriers that existed before. Now you can use your paralegal experience, any experience which fit the competency framework that the SRA stated, which requires you to comply with qualified work experience. So even a placement could theoretically be classed as qualifying work experience. You will just need to make sure that what you've done within the placement is of sort of a legal sort of aspect and meets the criteria that the SRA has stated. Then you'll need to get it signed off by a qualified solicitor within your previous workplace. But theoretically, yes.
Okay, brilliant. This is a really good question. Someone's asked that if they've got the 2 years of qualified work experience within a particular sector, so for instance, they say property law, does that mean that they have to qualify as a property law lawyer? Would you be able to move to other areas? How does that work?
Great question, and that comes to my first point around the tips. You do not have to use that as a form of QWE, qualifying work experience, but you can if you want to gain the overall status of SQE. But the problem you'll get there, if you've got experience at property law and you don't want to go into property law, but you use that as a form of your qualifying work experience, the field that you want to go into, they will see that experience, and it might cause a bit of challenges for you to break into that industry, depending on what it is. So this is why it's so important to think about what you want to do and then work backwards in terms of what experience you need to gain or what experience you want to show. It's not to say that you won't get any opportunities to break into whatever field you're looking for, and it depends on the field you're looking for, but it might be a little bit more challenging than if you have the right experience within that field.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Somebody has asked, is all the prep online for the SQE, and are the SQE exams themselves online?
So in terms of us as a provider, we are an online based provider. So all of our preparation in our prep courses are online. There are very few opportunities to do something face to face. And some of you might think, well, online preparation, you don't get that sort of personalized experience, but you do. You will be able to meet a learning coach. You will be designated a tutor as well that you can always contact. There'll be a phone call or virtual call away. But our preparation courses are online. It's not to say that other providers do the same thing. They might. Some of them might be face to face. You'll need to check, but our ones are online. With the actual examinations, the examinations are at a Kaplan assessment center, and they will be done at an assessment center, like a theory driving test. You'd have to go to a particular place where there's a computer, and you have to do the assessments on a computer in that place. The SQ1 is, you have to do it in 2 days as well. It's 180 questions per day, and you have to do it in 2 days.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got a question from Rebecca, who says, similar to the LPC question that we had earlier, what's the position or standing with those who've completed the charter legal executive route?
Again, that's with a case by case, it gets very, very, very difficult. I don't know, Bethany, if you've got a bit more experience on that, but for me, it'll be a case by case. You'll need to in what context to gain to see exemptions? Is that what it is?
They don't actually clarify. They've just asked, is the LPC essentially quite similar to the standard charter route? So I'm not really sure. Perhaps if you sent in that question, if you could. Oh, yeah, you got it. Hi there.
Oh, hi. Well, I don't have the answer to that question, I'm afraid. I think, Rebecca, you'd need to speak to the Chartered Legal Executive and have a look, because obviously there might be exemptions from them to be able to qualify as a solicitor through the SQE. But obviously the Chartered Legal Executive is a completely different kind of career route and profession. So you need to check in with them. So yeah, and apologies for dropping off there. My whole internet just crashed out, of course, at the most inconvenient time. So thank you very much, Neve, for stepping in there. I think we've got time for a couple more questions, and I apologies if I repeat one that's already been asked, because I haven't been here. And I've got them all back in again. Have we spoken about the fees of the SQE2 course, Sandip, as being different?
No,
someone's asked that.
No, we haven't spoken. I don't think we've spoken directly about the fees. So to give you an idea, actually, in fact, I don't know if I've got my fees in front of me. So we offer 2 prep courses. Is it for prep course or the examinations?
I think it's for the prep course.
Prep courses, perfect. So for our prep courses, our preparation courses start from, so SQE1 is £3,000 for the SQE1, and for the SQE2 preparation course, I think is about 3,200, around about that. What I can do, I can clarify the prices for you guys and just send it as a follow-up email. I know it is on the website as well, so if you do want to pop onto a website, you can get the prices there. I don't know if I could quickly just have a look now, but usually our sales team is a bit more clued on about the costings and fees for that, but it's around 3,000, I know, for pretty much each of them.
Great. And just to confirm, because I know someone has asked us again, and we spoke about this earlier, if you have done the LPC, you are potentially exempt from doing SQE1, but you will have to do QWE and your SQE2. So have a look at the SRA website for your kind of personal circumstances. But yeah, if you've done the LPC, you can either go and continue down the LPC route to qualify while you still can, or you can go off and do the SQE2. Series asked if students have to self-fund the SQE prep courses and exams, and I can just talk a bit about that. So if you are looking to get a training contract in-house in private practice, in a law firm, if you were to get that as an undergraduate student, or even as you pass before you embark on the SQE route, the firm will pay for your prep courses and for your exams. So that is what Law Careers Net always recommends that students do, so you wouldn't have to pay for it yourself. Another option is there are courses that are linked with like the LLM, so you could do an LLM SQE prep course and then you'd be able to get postgraduate funding. But apart from that, yes, you would have to pay for the courses and for the exam. I think Sandip spoke a bit earlier about how it is potentially cheaper than doing the LPC route, which you would have to have done anyway. So there's lots of different options out there for you. But yes, you'd have to self-fund if you haven't lined up a firm to pay for that for you. Right, I'm going to do 2 more questions, and again, I'm sorry if these have already been asked. I'm sorry, a lot of these have already been asked. Oh yeah, sorry, I don't know if this one asked. I saw this one earlier. Someone was just asking about undergraduate degrees incorporating SQE prep, and obviously Sandip, BARBRI is not doesn't do undergraduate courses, but I don't know if you want to speak on that.
I think again, it's because SQE is so new. There's definitely going to be a shift in terms of how universities embed and incorporate the SQE aspect of it within law degrees. And we will see that in the coming future. So we have a department which is called Institutional Partners, IP team, and they do a lot of work with universities and are partnered with a few different universities with the thinking of embedding SQE preparations within the universities. So this will, soon enough, this will be a norm. And there will be some embedment, some focus within SQE within law degrees for sure. It's just a matter of fact when the actual faculties of law and the institutes actually make that shift and change.
Yeah, and I guess the point is if you're already doing a law degree and it hasn't got SQE prep in it, which I think they've only just started to do that, then you will need to do a preparation course separately anyway in order to do the SQE. Yeah. Last question, I think, which is I'm going to kind of lead into a wider question of career changes and people who kind of maybe studied law a while ago. What are their options? You know, so Mira said, would it be sufficient just to do a prep course if you've studied law a while ago? What do you think, Sandip?
Again, the 3 prep courses we have is really just a guideline to kind of give you an indication of what is the most suitable preparation course for you, whether it's a 40-week, 20-week, or 10-week, and it depends on your other experience as well. Have you been in that industry or not, and how long is the gap? But we've got the whole point of SQE is to really open up the doors for individuals that have interested in either pursuing a career as a solicitor who have been paralegal for a long time, or people that have been aspiring to become a solicitor that thought it wasn't possible for them. If you have got a large gap in you and you do want to pursue to become a solicitor, but don't feel fully confident, it might be a case where you decide to do a 40-week course, which is it's at a different pace, a bit more flexible. You have a little bit more time. You can work on your other commitments, whether you're working or have any other commitments. So it offers that sort of better balance rather than doing a bit more of the kind of accelerated version 10-week. So the 40-week, 20-week will be better. But all of these are really based on your personal situation and circumstances, and our sales team are very good at kind of having that conversation with you, seeing what your situation is, and recommending the most appropriate choice for you. So do contact the sales team, and they'll be more than happy to just have a quick conversation with you if you're unsure.
Okay, I think that about finishes it up, and I can see there's lots of questions that we haven't managed to get around to, so thank you so much to everybody for asking those. And I just wanted to say that for every question that you've got, we've pretty much got the answer on Law Careers Net on our SQE hub. We are continually updating that, as I said at the beginning. So please do check that out, because you know, if there's a question that hasn't been answered, we'll definitely make sure we add that on there, because we really want to make sure that you have access to all the information you need. And I'd also say, having done a quick Google today while Sandip was talking about some of the specific questions that came in, the SRA have a lot of information on their website as well. So that's definitely a place for you to go for all these kind of specific questions about exemptions. So yeah, great. And I can see someone's already said that this has been very useful. So please do more webinars about these, which is great to hear feedback. But yes, so thank you so much to Sandip for that very kind of thorough and informative run through, and for answering our viewers' questions. Before you will go, just another reminder that we're going to be sending out the email with the link to the recorded session, so that will come to your inbox in the next 24 hours, so keep an eye out for that. There will also be a survey popping up once this webinar has finished, so please fill that in and let us know how you enjoyed today and what other topics you'd like us to cover. We're actually doing another webinar in collaboration with BARBRI later in the spring, summer, so let us know what you would like to see us cover in that. But apart from that, thank you again to Sandip and to BARBRI and to everyone attending today, and we look forward to seeing you all next time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. My pleasure.